The Cecil Hotel stands in the busy city of Los Angeles, overlooking 640 South Main Street. From the outset, it just looks like any other hotel built before the Great Depression. It's very impressive, and maybe even a bit imposing. It's a place considered so historically important that it's even a Los Angeles historical cultural monument. However, the Cecil Hotel is not historically significant for just its architecture. It's also a place with a long, interesting, and often very dark history. Please be warned that this video contains discussion of murder, suicide, and mental health issues. If you love a tantalizing mystery, you've come to the right place. Subscribe to our channel for the mysteries and stay for the stories. The Cecil Hotel was built in 1924. It was financed by 3 entrepreneurs and intended as a place for both tourists and those staying in LA on business. The Cecil Hotel was designed as a good place to stay for those on a budget. When the hotel was originally built, it was certainly an impressive piece of architecture. It featured 700 rooms, and the lobby was a particular point of interest, with its marble flooring and stained glass windows. The hotel was constructed during the boomtown period of Los Angeles. The city was the place to be for anyone trying to make it in big business or Hollywood. Naturally, the 3 men who built the Cecil Hotel predicted it would be as successful as the other recently constructed hotels in the area. However, despite being constructed during a period of so much success, the Cecil Hotel was never fated to be prosperous. Less than half a decade after it opened, the Great Depression hit the United States, and the Cecil Hotel quickly began to decline. The Great Depression saw an incredible rise in the amount of homeless people living in Skid Row, right outside where the Cecil Hotel was built. This meant that the Cecil Hotel was considered undesirable by many at the time. Skid Row is 56 blocks in downtown Los Angeles, where as of 2020, nearly 10,000 homeless people live. The area is considered to be dangerous, and there is a lot of negative social stigma against Skid Row and those who live in it. There is also a big sense of separation between Skid Row and the rest of Los Angeles, which slows down any efforts to help the homeless population within it. During the Great Depression, the Cecil Hotel also became a place where unemployed individuals could find a room to rent very cheaply. This further tarnished its reputation in the eyes of the public, and as nicer hotels in the area began to open up around the Cecil, it was quickly abandoned by the clientele the owners had initially hoped for. Finally, causing even more trouble for the Cecil Hotel, was that it also became a popular place where criminal activity ran rampant. Since the time of its opening, the Cecil Hotel has hosted its fair share of drug deals and overdoses, has seen countless robberies, and has also been a place to go for those wanting to spend a night with a sex worker. There has also been near constant violence inside the deceptively shabby rooms. During the time of its operation, police were called to the Cecil Hotel multiple times a day. They would have to deal with incidents ranging from domestic violence to stabbing, to someone trying to set the hallway carpets on fire. Women also reported being spied on in the shared bathrooms. According to former resident Kenneth Givens, by the 1980s, the Cecil Hotel was lawless. It was incredibly dangerous to go any further than the 6th floor, because higher up in the hotel, it was common for people to be killed. Givens said that it was up on the higher floors of the hotel, people would be dragged into rooms, beaten up and robbed, and then finally thrown out of the window to their death. Death has followed the Cecil Hotel like a curse since the beginning. In fact, within the first year of its opening, the hotel experienced its first notable death. In January of 1927, Percy Cook, a 52-year-old husband and father, used a gun to kill himself. He'd been staying at the Cecil Hotel following the dissolution of his marriage, and it was because he was unable to reconcile with his family that he took his own life. Many more deaths would occur at the hotel in the following years. The exact number is unknown, but the Cecil Hotel's former manager, Amy Price, states that even in the single decade that she worked there, 80 people died. In her own words, bad things just kept happening at the hotel. Insidiously, the Cecil Hotel has a strong reputation for suicide, so much so that it was even nicknamed the Suicide by downtown natives. 6 deaths occurred at the Cecil Hotel throughout the 1930s. In 1931, W.K. Norton took poison capsules to end his life. In 1932, Benjamin Dodditch committed suicide with a gun. In 1934, Sergeant Louis D. Borden suicided by slitting his own throat with a razor. 1937 saw the Cecil Hotel claim its first female victim, Grace E. Margot, who fell from the 9th story of the hotel, although it's unclear whether this was an accident. The following year, another man fell from the hotel, although this time this death was ruled as intentional. Roy Thompson jumped from the top floor and landed on the skylight of a nearby building after spending a few weeks as a guest at the hotel. Capping off the terrible wave of deaths that punctuated the 1930s was the death of a Navy officer, another who took their own life by consuming poison. Throughout the 1940s there were more deaths, such as the suicide of a teacher in 1940. But the most tragic death at the Cecil Hotel has to be the one that occurred in September of 1944. A 19-year-old woman named Dorothy Jean Purcell was staying at the Cecil Hotel with her 38-year-old boyfriend. Purcell unexpectedly gave birth in the bathroom of the room that she and her boyfriend, Ben Levine, had been staying in. She'd been completely unaware that she was pregnant. According to Purcell, she didn't want to disturb Levine, who was also asleep, so she gave birth alone. The tragedy of this death is that, in a moment of desperate insanity, Purcell threw her newborn son from the window of the hotel room, thinking that the baby had died. Purcell was acquitted of murder due to insanity in 1945. Between 1947 and 1962, 4 people fell from the great heights of the Cecil Hotel's 15 floors. Unfortunately, the last of these incidents claimed the life of a pedestrian as well, who was struck and killed by one of the people who jumped. In June of 1964, the hotel was the home of another murder, this one just as tragic as the one before it. Pigeon Goldie Osgood was a 65-year-old retired telephone operator who lived in the hotel, known as Pigeon Goldie because she regularly fed the pigeons in Pershing Square. She always wore an LA Dodgers cap and would feed the pigeons out of a paper sack full of seed. Osgood was attacked, raped, and murdered in her hotel room. A man named Jack B. Erlinger was then picked up by police and charged with Osgood's murder, as he'd been seen in Pershing Square wearing bloody clothes. However, the murder of Pigeon Goldie Osgood unfortunately remains unsolved to this day, as Erlinger was acquitted of the crime. 2 more victims died after falling from the hotel between 1975 and 1992. Then, in 2013, the Cecil Hotel suddenly became internationally infamous, and has remained so to this day. On February 19, 2013, the body of 21-year-old Canadian student Elisa Lam was found in a water tank on top of the Cecil Hotel's roof. Lam was naked and appeared to have been in the water tank for the entire 3 weeks that she had been missing. The investigation into her death was extensive, but for a while, investigators struggled to come up with a conclusive cause of death. Not only was it unknown how or why Lam got into the water tank in the first place, but adding further intrigue to the case was the strange elevator footage of Lam recorded on the night of her death. In the footage, Lam can be seen behaving oddly in the elevator, such as pushing the buttons to every floor at once, darting in and out of it, waving her hands around in a peculiar manner. Many theories arose regarding the true cause of Lam's death, from the logical to the downright bizarre. However, It was later determined that Lam was likely suffering a manic episode as a result of her unmedicated bipolar disorder. She therefore may have been hallucinating in the elevator and gone into the water tank as a result. As of 2021, the latest investigated death at the Cecil Hotel was in 2015. A young man was suspected to have fallen from the building, but it's unclear if he was intending suicide. Now, strange tragic deaths are not the only reason why the Cecil Hotel has such a reputation for the macabre. The hotel is also known as the lair of two serial killers, Jack Unterweger and Richard Ramirez, the latter better known as the Night Stalker. In the 1980s, the Night Stalker's sadistic murder spree horrified Los Angeles. Richard Ramirez killed a total of 13 people that we know of, and attempted to murder 5 more, sexually assaulted 11, and was also charged with 14 counts of burglary. During the middle of his reign of terror, Ramirez took a room on the 14th floor of the Cecil Hotel, only paying $14 a night. Allegedly, Ramirez would return to the hotel after his murders, always in the middle of the night, and usually covered in blood. He would take off his bloody clothes and walk up to his room in blood-stained underwear. This didn't concern the hotel staff, as they were all used to this kind of behavior at the hotel. Only a few short years after the Night Stalker was apprehended in 1989, another serial killer from Austria named Jack Unterweger took up residence at the Cecil Hotel in 1991. He was there to research an article he was writing about the red light districts of Los Angeles and how the LAPD deal with sex workers. Unterweger seemed to dive headfirst into the research for the story. He would visit many places in the area, interact with the police on several occasions, and have countless meetings with sex workers. Nobody at the time knew his dark past, that in 1974 he'd been imprisoned in Austria for raping and murdering a woman. When he was released from prison in the 1990s, Unterweger then came under suspicion for the murder of more women. So naturally he fled, and his hiding spot of choice was Los Angeles. Unfortunately, when Unterweger arrived in Los Angeles, he began to kill again. 3 sex workers tragically died after being strangled to death with their own bras. Unterweger was finally arrested in 1994, but sadly, the danger that women on Skid Row face every day hasn't diminished. Countless women disappear in the area every month, with little investigation into what happened to them. So, it's well known that the Cecil Hotel housed serial killers. But did you also know that it was claimed to have hosted the famous victim of a serial killer as well? The Cecil Hotel was reportedly one of the last places visited by Elizabeth Short, better known as the Black Dahlia. Short was a young woman, relatively new to Los Angeles, who allegedly had dreams of making it as a Hollywood star. Short was brutally murdered by an unknown assailant, and her infamous murder remains unsolved to this day. Now, this story may or may not be true, as there is no concrete evidence. However, it does make what happened to Elizabeth Short somehow more unsettling, if she was in such a threatening place right before she died. The Cecil Hotel has certainly struggled over the course of its lifetime, but in 2011, the hotel underwent some major changes. Part of it was transformed into Stay on Main, considered separate from the Cecil Hotel entirely. Despite sharing a building, the only way the tenants of the Cecil Hotel and the guests on Stay on Main interacted was through the shared elevator. This renewed hope for the hotel would only last a short time. Following the deaths at the hotel in 2013 and 2015, both the Cecil Hotel and the Stay on Main were closed in 2017. As of 2021, the Cecil Hotel is still closed. However, there are plans to reopen it in the near future. The hotel has a new owner who is hoping to completely transform it, refreshing both its architecture and its reputation. So, who knows what the future holds for the Cecil Hotel? One thing's for sure though, even though its future may change, nothing can remove the grim memories of its past. In fact, the Cecil Hotel's creepy history even inspired one of the newer seasons of American Horror Story. What are your thoughts about the Cecil Hotel and its dark history? Let us know in the comments below. If you liked this video, don't forget to like it and share it with your friends. Also, subscribe to the channel if you're interested in more videos like this one. Thanks for watching.